Final Countdown. Welcome back. I'm Cody with Secure Agent Mentor and SecureAgentMentor.com. We come to you live, talk about final expenses, life insurance, mortgage protection, helping you in the field as an insurance agent. Every single Wednesday live at 3 Central Standard Time. You can count on us. We'll be live every single week, every single day, giving content in some way. Today's going to be good. Today is about, what do you want it to be about? I want it to be about having consistency week in and week out. And the reason I want to mention that is, and we're going to harp on that a lot this week, and there's a reason for that, is because we want to bring value to you in a positive way, but we also want to get you thinking. What happens in this business and why 92% of insurance agents fail is they are not consistent enough. They have good weeks, good days, good months, good quarters, good years, but they're not consistent over a long term. Because if you think about it, you can have a great Monday and a horrible Tuesday. If you get to where habitually you're personally doing a poor job on Tuesdays for whatever reason, maybe you work so hard on Mondays that you sleep in on Tuesdays, or you don't make calls on Monday nights, Tuesdays suck. If you think about it, life happens. Before we know it, a full month, a full quarter, a full year has passed us. It is gone. 2017 has flown by. If you get to where you do great on Mondays, but then Tuesdays are a piss poor day for you, then if you think about it, you could have, that could happen 10 Tuesdays in a row. And before you know it, if you'd had great Tuesdays, instead of $20,000 for that quarter, you could have very easily done $30,000 for that quarter, which is a lot of extra money, especially when you start duplicating that and you take those bad days and think about the whole month, the whole week. Take those bad days, think about the whole quarter. Think about the whole month, whole quarter, whole year, whole decade. If we're not consistent day in and day out, and we're not thinking about improving and getting there and making sure that we're doing everything we can, before you know it, I promise, when you have a bad day, it'll affect your week. When you have a bad week, if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, if you're negative, if you need coffee and you don't drink it, if you sleep in, if you're not prepared, if you don't have a full day, if you didn't buy enough leads from the previous week, if you didn't make your Saturday success calls every single Saturday, Success Saturday, if you didn't make those calls on Saturday morning or those calls on Sunday evening, before you know it, I promise you, the lack of consistency to where some days I work hard, some days I don't. Long term, someone else that is putting in that time and that work ethic day in and day out will eventually pass you. And they will blow past you, and you will never be able to catch them because they're thinking about what they can do every single day. Maximize the time. Seconds turn into minutes, and minutes turn into hours, hours turn into days, days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months. And if you let too many seconds get away from you, where you're lazy, you're not consistent, you've got call reluctance, you're thinking about all this other stuff, before you know it, I promise you, that bad second, that bad minute, or that bad hour, when life happens, I promise you, it can easily turn into a bad year. And before you know it, you're a statistic. 92% of insurance agents fail because agents don't work hard enough. Therefore, if they don't work hard enough, they don't put in the calls, they're not going to see the people. If you don't see the people, you don't make the sales. If you don't make the sales, you don't make any money. If you don't make any money, before you know it, you are in a different career. You don't have a career. Whatever the case is, you are not successful. And it all comes back to being consistent with the little moments, those seconds, those minutes, those hours, those days. Put in the work, grind, do everything you can so that you can be consistent. Because the individuals that you think about athletes that are consistent every single week, they come out and they play well every single week. If they change up their routine, if they took out a couple of workouts, if they showed up to the gym or the field later that day and didn't do their normal pregame routine, all those little things, those such small details can affect everything in such a huge way. we can compare this to basketball. I used to play basketball a lot. Now that I don't play basketball, but like once every few weeks, once a month, I notice it when I go play. But when I'm playing every single day or multiple times a week, I can handle the ball better. I can shoot better. I'm in better shape. And I just feel better. When I feel better, I'm more confident. I play better. The same thing goes in the insurance business. If you take that normal hour, maybe you always make calls from 9 to 10 in the morning and 5 to 6 at night. If you let, life happens, if you let something get in the way of that hour, before you know it, you may get away from a good habit, and you may not make any calls during that hour for that whole week. And you know what I'm talking about, because life happens quick. Before you know it, you've had a bad month. Before you know it, you are out of this business. But if you are conscious and think about being consistent, day in, second in, second out, minute in, minute out, hour in, hour out, day in, day out, week in, week out. If you start to think about how can I be consistent, how can I do more, how can I maximize my time, how can I make sure that I'm consistent every day, I'm consistent every week, I'm consistent, and I promise you it will change your outlook on everything. When you're more consistent, when you put in the time and the work consistently, you have a much better chance of success. Part 2 is just around the corner. Stick around. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to Final Countdown. We were talking about being consistent. We were talking about how life happens, and I can promise you, I know this all too well. Back when I was 19, 20 years old, I was a new agent. I noticed when I didn't put in the time, when I wasn't consistent, when I let a couple of small things get in the way of the times that I knew I needed to be on the phone, and I had to be on the phone. I knew that those things would get in the way. I knew that before I knew it, before I caught on, that bad day, I would have a poor week. I always felt like, hey, I need to set 15 appointments. I need to see 10. That was my thought process. Agents always think when I say see 10 that I mean set 10 appointments. I don't mean set 10 appointments because appointments aren't going to, I don't mean they're actually going to be there. I don't mean they're going to show up. It doesn't mean that before you know it, you set 10, you may only see 6. You may only see 7. You may only see 8. You may only see 5. But if you set 15, I knew I was going to see 10. Because I was consistent week in and week out, no matter what I had to do, no matter how much I had to call, no matter how much I had to work. If I set 15, I was going to see 10, and I was probably going to sell 3, 4, or 5. If I did that week in and week out, where those agents that aren't conscious, they're not thinking about what they need to be doing. They're just floating through life. They're just floating through days. They're floating through weeks. They have no system, no vision, no direction. Before you know it, if you have no direction, no vision, no system, and I use that word a lot because the top agents in the nation have a weekly system. When you don't have a system, when you don't have things that just flow, things that are in order, I'm telling you what, before long, you may see 15 people, set 15, see 10 one week and sell 3, 4, 5. You want to do it next week? If you're not conscious, if you're not thinking about it, and if you're not making sure that you set those 15 week in and week out, before you know it, I guarantee you, there will be weeks come where, hey, I did 4 this week, I only did 2 sales this week, and I did 0 the next week. It's because you weren't consistent. When you're consistent about your numbers, when you're consistently putting the right numbers into something, then you will get to where you will consistently get the right numbers out of something. But if you're not thinking about how to be consistent, if you're not self-aware as far as, hey, I used to get so meticulous and track my activities so detailed that I would learn that for whatever reason, I would always have really good Tuesdays, but then my Wednesdays, it was like, you know what, I put so much into making sure I had a good Tuesday that my Wednesdays suffered. Well, how can we make sure that Wednesday never suffers because of Tuesday's good? How do we make sure that Tuesday's good and Wednesday's good? I mean, I was so meticulous, tracking my activity, tracking everything daily. I mean, crazy activity tracker, that I realized that, hey, I'm doing small things that's impacting this day. And if this day was good, that $1,200 a week would turn into $1,600, $2,000. And if you do that, if you think about it, and $1,000 a week turns into $1,500 bucks. Over a full year, that's an extra 25 grand of income. It doesn't sound like a lot on a weekly basis. Oh, it was just 500 bucks. But if you start to duplicate that and you start to think about how that can affect, okay, over 10 years, you lost 250 grand, all because you focused on having a good Tuesday, but not a good Wednesday. You see where I'm going with this? That $500 can freaking stack up and grow like crazy. But it all starts. It all starts. And you know what? We can get so meticulous and so detailed that before you know it, 20 years happens. Life happens. And there's agents out there watching this where 20 years has happened. And they've lost out on probably $1 million because they weren't meticulous. They weren't tracking their activity. They weren't putting in the time. And they weren't consistently setting 15, seeing 10, writing 3 to 5. And before you know it, they lost out on probably $1,000 a week on average. Over 10 years, they lost out on $500,000 bucks. I'm telling you, it happens. I'm taking the small stuff and turning it into big numbers to get your attention. Be consistent. Put in the work. Set 15, see 10, sell 3 to 5. Be consistent. Put in the work week in and week out. Figure out what your weak points are. You want to have good days every day. You don't want good days and bad days. Talked to an agent last night out in Cali. Wrote 2 LBL apps yesterday. You want to make sure you write 2 LBL apps today as well, because those those good days, a lot of times the next day is not so good. Make sure that you have good days every day, and I promise you it will pay off at some point in the future. But at the end of the day, it's all about being consistent. Thanks for watching the final countdown by Secure Agent Mentor. I'm Cody Askins, every single Wednesday live with you at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. Today was about, as an agent, the importance of being consistent. Thanks for watching. Be consistent. Have a great rest of your week. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe so that you get notified every time we do something like this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Wednesday.